Hi everyone, I want to share my simple strategy for quickly eliminating real estate investing deals that come to your inbox in under 2 minutes. Also want to share, most importantly, how I think the 1% rule, which we've heard of in millions of times when it comes to real estate investing, how the 1% rule of thumb is so easy peasy. Well, I want to share the dangers of using the 1% rule, especially if you are new into the real estate investing world. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Financial Nirvana Mama, where I help you learn to invest your money like a pro because it's mission critical to your success. I wanted to say, hey, if you're new to this community, please hit the subscribe button and that bell notification so you get the latest and greatest videos coming to you. And thank you to all the subscribers, to all those who are watching this video. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So let's dive into this easy peasy method. Like when I was starting out my real estate investing journey, I was inundated with all these real estate listings that were coming into my inbox. I was just getting overwhelmed with having to spend so much time crunching out all the numbers. And then it did hit me that there's this really easy peasy method that someone shared with me long ago during my real estate investing journey that I really want to share with you. Caution here, this is not to eliminate all the due diligence that you need to do when it comes to really analyzing if this is the right real estate investment deal to look into. It's really just a quick screening tool. As you're getting listings, you can figure out in easily under 2 minutes, is it worth looking at more closely? So how it works is you have a property, say that's for $300,000. All you take is 7% of that value of that property is the rent that you should charge annually. And if that doesn't even come close, can't even collect at least 7% of the market values of that properties in rent annually, then that's a deal you can completely eliminate in like zippity like. So how this works is have a deal that's being around, say $325,000, but you know that's actually worth 300. So you're thinking, okay, if I could get the property for $300,000, is it enough for me to even look into even further? Can I actually collect the right rental income to actually make this deal worth my time in actually crunching out the numbers, in visiting the property, in actually investigating even further? So this is just, again, like I said, it's a rule of thumb. It does not discount all the due diligence that you have to do. It really just means saving you a ton of time. So all you do is you take 7% times 0.07, which would equal to $21,000. So that what that means, this $21,000 is the annual rent you must collect every single year. So you divide this, now you take $21,000 and divide this by 12, and you'll get $1,750 is what rent you need to collect every single month to make this deal work. You're probably thinking, how do I even know that this is the right rent that I'm going to be able to collect for this rental property? So you can go to Rent Faster, you can go to Rentometer, which I have a video up there of how much you can charge for rent. And I do a demo of Rentometer where literally you type in the address of that property and you can figure out what type of rental ranges you can charge. Now, if you become a neighborhood expert, you will easily know what type of rent you can charge in that neighborhood. For example, for a 3-bedroom semi-detached home or a 3-bedroom townhome or a 2-bedroom condo that's $300,000. Now, just keep in mind that this rule of thumb has a lot of assumptions because it's so simple. Of course, it has a bunch of assumptions. Some assumptions is that you're going to get a decent mortgage at low interest rates. It assumes that the condo fees are actually very, very low. So for condos in this situation may not cover the 7% rule. It may not work so well for condos because it doesn't include condo fees being like drastically high, taking a huge percentage of your expenses. So also it doesn't take into account your down payment, okay? So for example, if you want to put in a 30% down payment, obviously then you can go with a lower number, less than 7%. This takes account to probably a typical 20% down payment. Now, if you put in a 5% down payment, then this whole calculation doesn't work at all. So again, that's what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of things you need to assess with the 7% rule. This is just a quick and easy way to quickly determine, is it worth looking into and doing your due diligence on that rental property? But this is definitely do not rely on your decisions of choosing to go buy that rental property simply based on this 7% rule. Why is the 1% rule such a boo? This is how I think about the 1% rule. It is completely dangerous for new investors, and especially for new investors who are busy, who have a career, who have a young family. Because what I find back based on my experience and based in being in this journey for a very long time, at least 14 years now, being involved in a lot of these real estate investing workshops and seminars, is that they unfortunately do stress on this 1% rule. And this is very dangerous, and they don't tell you the real story about this 1% rule. Now, I'm going to take the exact same example of the $300,000 property, and how this 1% rule works is that it's so simple. It's so easy peasy that I could understand why they stress on it. Times this by 1%. So 1% of $300,000 means that you need to collect $3,000 per month, every single month, to make this rental property work. So you buy $300,000 property, you need to collect at least $3,000 for that rental property. Now, when I was being taught this 1% rule, I thought, wow, okay, so if I find this magic number, because it's so easy peasy, that means it requires my full attention and do my full analysis. Now let's look at this realistically. In what cities can you literally attract this type of rent for this type of property? Okay, so I would say as a new investor, you're probably going to have a very hard time even looking for a rental property that even collects $3,000. Some ways you can do this easily, I guess, is you could do student rentals, where basically you just literally stick as many tenants as you can into that property to boost the rental income. The other thing you could do is look for distressed neighborhoods where they are kind of sketchy and they have cheaper properties, and then you can collect that much more rent. You can also convert a house, I guess, for $300,000, and it's a triplex in this small town neighborhood, and I guess maybe if you stretch it, you can get $3,000 in rent. I've actually done pretty much all three of those methods, and I got into trouble. So as a busy professional in this real estate investing journey, when I first started, the very first completely investment property I purchased was a triplex, and it almost met the 1% rule. And what happened was that I had, I think, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I always have to do this, between 7 to 9 tenants in any one time in this triplex. And it was enormous amount of effort. I had 3 units in this house. I was a busy professional. I also was starting a family, and I also decided to manage the property myself between my husband and I, because I didn't have kids then, but I was pregnant. So it became overwhelming because I was chasing after this 1% rule. Now, I'll tell you another story, is that when I was also starting out really early in my journey, I also bought a condo in a very small town neighborhood in Estevan. Actually still own this condo. And back in the day, the Saskatchewan market as well as the Alberta market was just skyrocketing because there was a lot of oil and gas mining kind of type of work, and it was attracting really, really great salaries. So at that time, I bought a place for $220,000. And this was a 2-bedroom apartment. And back then, the rent you can collect at that place was $2,400, okay, per month, which is insane. Okay, so if you look at this property was collecting $2,400 a month. So if you take 1% of $220,000, that means you can easily exceed the 1% rule. It was $2,200 was the minimum rent I could collect that would make this numbers work. Now, this 1% rule made me chase after every deal in Canada to look for a property that met this 1% rule. And that's why I went to this small town in Saskatchewan, which was actually close to my home, my nearby home in Regina. And I found a city, a tiny, tiny town where you could buy a property for $220,000 and collect $2,400 rent. So really, the short story is that this 1% rule for new investors gets you, probably drastically blindsides you in looking for properties where you have to collect a very high rent at a very cheap property value. And It could cause you to look at neighborhoods that you wouldn't normally look at, and you would get you to attract tenants that you normally wouldn't want to attracting because it's probably in sketchy neighborhoods and the tenants are not that great. Also, you're probably going to be chasing after small towns where property values are a lot lower, but these small towns happen to be probably cyclical towns or doesn't have a lot of employment growth and population growth. It just doesn't have the economic fundamentals to make that population grow, and therefore the property values grow, and then also then the rent to grow. It probably can go stagnant, like in my situation, whereas the oil mining gas industry, it just has obviously not doing so well right now. It could also get you to look at a property and think of how many ways or how many more tenants you squish into that one rental property. So all I'm trying to get at is that that's why I think the 1% investing rule is completely dangerous. It's very dangerous because it forces the investor, especially a new one, to start looking at it from the wrong perspective and start chasing after properties that happen not to be the best ideal investment properties for a new investor, especially if they're busy. Because in the end, if you have more tenants in a rental property, they happen to be like children, and that takes more time for you to manage that property. Unless you're a person that actually has a lot of time, you have a career where, maybe you're only working part-time or you're a stay-at-home, then maybe you might have the time to manage a property where you can stick in a ton of tenants like students and oversee them, or get a property manager to oversee that property manager. Or you're okay with dealing with a lot of maintenance, wear and tear, problems with the tenants like every single month, and there's a lot of also turnover, because with a type of property that is probably low quality in a sketchier neighborhood, you're going to have higher vacancies. The property also is probably older, it requires more maintenance, because that's why it's also cheaper to purchase. It's also going to probably have a lot more tenants, especially if you need to get 1%, at least 1% rule. So that's why I'm saying the 1% rule is completely dangerous, and it can really end someone's journey early in the investing career, because once you deal with one property that causes you a ton of stress, you could easily give up on the entire journey. And really, it's about how much time you have in this real estate investing journey that makes you successful. A lot of people can't take the stress, and then they give up, and then they don't see the fruits of their labor, because it does take many, many years to see the fruits of that labor of that property. Anyway, hopefully you found this super helpful. If so, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below about what you think about the 1% rule and that 7% rule. Anything maybe I didn't even pick up on. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification if you're new to this channel, so that you get the latest and greatest videos coming to you. Thank you. Bye.